Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. Coming to the 12th verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we covered till 11th, where Swamiji highlighted very important points about the values. There should not be any compromise in the values. That was the highlighting factor for every jiva, which he gave Upadesham to Arjuna also in the battlefield, saying that important highlights are always we have to control over our indriyas. While dealing with the external world, we have to be very careful, means careful regarding the how to use our values with discrimination and with determination. We have to achieve that goal with dharmam and satyam and accept the situation as it comes cheerfully and handle it with proper values and expectation also and desires. We should not have too much when we are on the spiritual line. Dealing with every aspect of the life has to be in adhere with our values. That was the highlighting factor. Coming to the 12th verse, Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vriddha pitamaha simhanadam vinadyochaihi shankham dadmau pratapavan, one who is known for his valor. Kuru vriddha pitamaha, the grandfather of the Kuru family. Tasya, his, harsham, happiness, sanjanayan, producing, uchaihi, loudly, simhanadam, a roar like a lion, vinadhya, making, shankham, conch, shankham, conch, dadmuhu, he blew. Bhishmacharya, grandfather of the Kuru family, known for his valor, loudly let out a lion's roar and blew his conch in order to make Duryodhana happy. Because Duryodhana had to shout in order to be heard over the din of the battlefield, Bhishmacharya might have overheard him telling Drona, everyone should protect Bhishmacharya. Bhishma knew that he needed no one to protect him, that not only could he be protected himself, but everyone else too, including Duryodhana. So Duryodhana's concern was evidently very silly. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Coming to the further meaning, just to produce some kind of joy in the hearts of Duryodhana and the others, Bhishmacharya of the Kuru family, the grandfather, roared loudly like a lion. In this verse, Bhishmacharya was described as one who had a number of titles denoting valor, meaning that he had had many exploits in his life. Bhishmacharya sounded the beginning of the war by blowing his conch. Bhishmacharya had accepted Duryodhana's challenge to the Pandavas. Being commander-in-chief of Duryodhana's army, he was the one who had to give the command that would alert everyone to be ready. To do this, then he blew his conch. Once Bhishmacharya's conch had sounded, everyone else in Duryodhana's army blew his conch too, as described in the next verse. Verse 13th of the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Tatash shankascha bhiryascha panavanakha gomukhaha सहसेवाभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दस्तुमुलो भवत् ततः शङ्खाश्च भेर्यश्च पणवानखगोमुखाः सहसैवाभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दस्तुमुलो भवत्. Tatah, then, shankah, conches, cha, and bheryah, kettle drums, cha, and panavanakha gomukhaha, tabors, trumpets, and cow horns, sahasevya, quite suddenly, abhayahanyanta, blasted forth, saha, that, shabdaha, sound, tumulaha abhavat, was heard shaking. Then suddenly conches, kettle drums, trumpets, and others blasted forth, and the sound was heard, shaking indeed. All the various instruments of sound were described here. There was no music in these sounds, just loud noises coming from a variety of sound making instruments, varieties of other drums, etc., and so on. First, there were the conches. Bhishmacharya had to start off because he was the commander-in-chief and also the eldest. Everyone respected him. Thus he started and everyone else followed. Then came the kettle drums, tabors, trumpets, and cow horns. All varieties of sounds coming from this array of instruments burst forth immediately. Even those people who had no instruments might have produced their own sounds by imitating various instruments. The effect was tremendous, heart-shaking, frightening, something unimaginable. When Duryodhana's entire army with its many divisions simultaneously began blowing their conches and other instruments, the whole sky was rent with this enormous noise. Given the situation, what did the Pandavas do? They too, of course, followed suit, a description of which appears in the next 6 verses. The 14th verse of the first chapter. Tatashvethair haryai yukte mahatisyandane sthitau madhava pandavaschaiva divyau shankau pradadmatuhu. Tatashvethair haryai yukte mahatisyandane sthitau madhava pandavaschaiva divyau shankau pradadmatuhu. Tata, then, svetaihi by white, hayaihi horses, yukte yoked, drawn, mahati in the great, syandane chariot, sthitau seated, madhavaha Lord Krishna, pandavaha Arjuna, cha and eva indeed, divyau celestial, shankau conches, pradad matuhu sounded. Then Lord Krishna and Arjuna, seated in the great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their divine conches. Having described the war cry of the Kauravas, Sanjaya, the narrator, then turned his attention to Arjuna, referred to here as Pandava, meaning Pandu's son. The name given to Lord Krishna in this verse was Madhava, meaning the one with wealth, Lakshmi. Throughout the Gita, Lord Krishna was addressed or mentioned by different names: Rishikesha, Achyuta, Keshava, Janardhana, and so on. Lord Krishna and Arjuna were seated in Arjuna's magnificent chariot that was drawn by white horses, white being a color that could not be missed amidst horses of different colors. In response to the war cry of Duryodhana's army, Arjuna and Lord Krishna sounded their conches, described here as Divyav, meaning celestial, because they were not gathered in the ordinary way. Their names were given in the next verse. The 15th verse of the first chapter. Panchajanyam Rishikesho Devadattam Dhananjayah Poundram Dadmau Mahashankam Bhimakarma Vrukodharaha. Rishikesha, Lord of all the senses. Krishna Lord of all senses. Of Rishikesha, Lord of all the senses. It is Lord Krishna. Panchajanya, Dhananjaya, Arjuna, Devadatta, Bhima, Vrukodharaha, one who has the stomach of a wolf, Mahasanakham, a huge conch, Poundra, Dadmuhu sounded. Mahashankham, a huge conch. Lord Krishna sounded the Panchajanyam, Arjuna, the Devadatta, and Bhishmacharya, the one with the stomach of a wolf, sounded his huge conch, Poundra. Lord Krishna's conch was called Panchajanya. As we have seen, the bows also had names. Arjuna's bow was known as Gandhiva. Dhananjaya was another name for Arjuna, and Devadatta was the name of his conch, meaning that it was a gift from a god. Bhima Karma was another name for Bhima because he was able to do the most frightening jobs both in the war and peacetime. Bhima never undertook ordinary work. For instance, when the Pandavas were living incognito for 1 year, Bhima was employed in the palace as a cook. In fact, he appointed himself because he wanted to be able to eat a lot of food. He excelled at cooking in large quantities, the kind of cooking wherein whole pumpkins were dropped into huge cauldrons. There are 2 types of cooking mentioned in the Sanskrit literature. One type is called Bhima Paka, cooking for thousands of people at a time. And the other is called Nalapaga, after King Nala, who was also a great cook, but for small numbers of people. Swamiji is telling we might think that Bhima must have been very flabby with a huge stomach and all that goes with it. But that was not the case. He did not resemble like that. So Swamiji is highlighting. Bhima was described as the one who had the stomach of a wolf, that is, so hollowed that it almost touched the spine. A wolf is always hungry, which may be where the expression keeping the wolf away from the door came from. This analogy is a good example of what is meant by the word Lakshana. So just an example Swamiji is highlighting. The word wolf is the implied meaning of hunger. Even though a wolf is always hungry and eats a lot, its stomach remains the same, ever trim. We understand then, by describing his stomach as being like that of a wolf, that Bhima was a huge man with a stomach resembling that of a wolf, and keeping hunger away was always a concern for him. Bhima always had a very large lungs and therefore did not have an ordinary conch, known as Poundra. His conch is described here as huge. The conches of the other 3 Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Nakula and Sahadeva, are mentioned in the next verse. I'll conclude with this. We'll continue the next session. Radhe Krishna. Radhe Krishna. We completed till the 15th verse of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Continuing with the verses, we are highlighting on various values also, which Swamiji is simultaneously referring, so that it is easy for us to understand. And at the outset, today is the most auspicious day, as we all know, Akshaya Triti. Following this week, very auspicious events. Friday is Adi Shankara Jayanti, and Sunday is Swami Chimayananda's Jayanti birthday on 8th May, Tyagaraja Jayanti. So many Mahans in our Shastras, we come to know and learn so many points from that auspicious events. Now the whole Vedanta, within a span of 32 years, Adi Shankara Bhagavad Pada has given us this great precious thing in our life, which is for every human being should know that most valuable thing which Adi Shankara has given us, that auspicious day throughout India, throughout the world it is being celebrated. So just I'll highlight the few points on what is Shankara Jayanti and how important is the Vedas. The whole world is sustained because of those Vedas. So how important is every word of the Veda. Every Devata is present when we see Rudram or any other Upanishads, if you go deep into the meaning, where Adi Shankara has explained each and every word, if you see the Brahma Sutra. So the day marks the birth of the great spiritual teacher Adi Shankara, Shankara Jayanti. Shankara was born in Kaladi, a village in Kerala, to Shiva Guru and Aryamba. At a very young age, Shankara became a monk and later studied with his guru Govindapada. He travelled all over India and established 4 centres of learning. They are the Jyotir Mutt in Badri, North India, Sringeri Mutt in Sringeri, South India, Govardhana Mutt in Puri, East India, and Dwaraka Mutt in Dwaraka, West India. His 4 disciples were Totakacharya, Sureshwaracharya, Padmapadacharya, and Hastamalakacharya, were respectively appointed as the acharyas, teachers in these mathams. Since the 8th century, these mathas have maintained an unbroken line of teachers. Adi Shankara contributed greatly to Vedantic literature and the teaching tradition through his commentaries on the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutra. He stands as a shining link in the tradition of Vedantic teaching. So Shankara Jayanti is a so auspicious day in our calendar. Falls on the 5th day of the bright fortnight of Vaishakha, that is April-May. This day is celebrated by narrating the story of Adi Shankara and reading sections of his commentaries known as Bhashyas. Seekers chant Jai Jai Shankara, Hara Hara Shankara in his praise, and prayers and pujas are performed to seek his blessings. So auspicious is the event. So coming to the what Adi Shankara says, the Vedas as a means of knowledge. Adi Shankara has gone deep into it. So Swami is highlighting few important points. The word Veda is derived from the Sanskrit word root with, meaning to know. The Vedas refers to a body of knowledge that reveals different means and ends available to a human being. The Vedas are divided into 2 parts, Swamiji is referring. The first part of the Vedas, the Karma Kanda, deals with the actions, karma, as a means for acquiring known ends, such as various in our daily life, what all we pray, all that, house, child, job, etc., rain, etc., and means for acquiring unknown ends such as heaven, moksha, etc. The Karma Kanda provides the means for these countless human ends. The last part of the Vedas, comprising of the Upanishads, is known as Vedanta or the Jnana Kandam. The Jnana Kanda does not deal with different means or ends. It discusses only one end, the end in life, and the means of achieving this particular end. That is the most important point. What it is discussed is to know the ultimate end for a human being, how to achieve that, how to acquire this. That vision is there in Vedanta. That is the last part of the Vedas. In the vision of the Vedas, this end called moksha is seen as the ultimate goal of every individual's life. Moksha is freedom from any sense of inadequacy or sense of limitation. So as Swamiji is explaining, because every individual feels that he is limited. He has not acquired in whether any field for that matter, let it be knowledge, let it be material, always an unfulfilled and inadequate feeling every individual has, which is wrong. Swamiji is highlighting. He is not at all limited. Because of his mind, he perceives as though it is limited. He is the unlimited conscious. This end is unlike all other ends because it is considered to be an already accomplished end. Already it is accomplished. What Swami is highlighting is only 3 scriptures we come to know. With that vision, we try to understand through Guru. The Jnana reveals that the individual is already free and need not do anything to become free. Knowledge only helps him to understand the whole concept. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Knowledge of this fact is acquired, not action. The second portion of the Vedas is a means of knowledge to unfold the nature of reality and the truth of oneself. So it reveals, the Vedanta tells us, what is the universe, what is the Jagat, what is the reality, what is the truth, what is permanent, what is impermanent, and what we have to seek. With that attitude back of our mind, every action we do materially, ultimately we get a broader vision and try to understand the ultimate truth. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. The teaching of Vedanta is in the form of words. For knowing oneself, words are the instrument, the means, just as one's eyes are the means for seeing a flower. Therefore, one's whole approach is using the word of Vedanta must be similar to one's use of the senses. So, with that mind, we try to know the ultimate truth. The source of one's confidence in the sense instruments is expectation that they can do their job properly. That's what Swami is highlighting. One uses the senses with Shraddha, faith or confidence in their ability to uncover perceptual knowledge of the object which they apprehend. That is, he is telling, with that faith and Shraddha, we try to discover with open mind the teachings of what Swamiji unfolds with the open mind, with the Shraddha, the prayerful attitude. Surely no individual can miss that truth. That is the highlighting factor. Vedanta as a pramana, Swamiji is highlighting. The words of Vedanta are just as much a pramana, a means of knowledge. Pramana means as are the sense organs. In fact, the knowledge given by the sense organs upon analysis can be dismissed, whereas the knowledge that one gains from the words of Vedanta cannot be dismissed by any other means of knowledge. Sense organs can make known only the existence of things that are capable of being perceived, but what can be perceived by one means of perception can be dismissed by another perceptual means, or at another level of capability of the same means. What is perceived can always be dismissed. Upon sufficient examination, nothing perceivable is it as it appears to be, but is always resolvable into something else. So what Swamiji is highlighting, the things which are not permanent, we can see the difference, what is permanent, what is temporary. So that perception, the understanding of the reality has to be learnt and known properly. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. The perceived, like for example, Swamiji is giving, like for example, Swamiji is highlighting the perceived blueness of the sky, for example, is not really blue. The perceived daily ascent of the sun in the eastern sky does not really happen. Upon enquiry, the perceived flatness of the earth cannot be dismissed. However, the words of Vedanta give rise to knowledge that cannot be dismissed. The knowledge unfolded by Vedanta that there is one non-dual reality can be dismissed neither by perception nor by any perception-based logic. While they may not reveal non-duality, perception and logic also do not have the capacity to dismiss non-duality, since the non-dual self is not their subject matter. So what he's telling is that mainly through knowledge and understanding only we can know. So it's not difficult. So through understanding we can know what is non-dual and what is dual. So what is Satyam and what is Mithya? That's what Swamiji is highlighting. So Satyam, what it is, we come to know through this knowledge. And with that attitude, we understand the whole concept. So that is the highlighting factor Swamiji is unfolding. It can be through this knowledge, by study of the scriptures, what Adi Shankara has given in Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Every step, if we try to know, if we try to unfold how Swamiji is teaching us, with that understanding, we can know that unlimited self, that we reach the ultimate truth. Further, Swamiji is highlighting on the 4 Purusharthas. The Vedas classify all pursuits of a human being into 4 fundamental pursuits, as we all know, just is highlighting so that it will more be very clear. These four pursuits collectively called Purushartha are Dharma, ethics, Artha, securities, Kama, pleasure, and Moksha, liberation. These basic human pursuits can be subdivided into two sets. One set, the pursuit of security and pleasure, Artha and Kama, is shared in common with all other living beings. The other set, effort in accordance with ethics, Dharma, and the pursuit of liberation, Moksha, is unique to human beings alone. So this second part, Dharma and Moksha, is very important for a human life, for a human being to know that truth. Whereas other first two, everyone has, even animals. So we are evolved self. So every individual should know this ultimate truth in this life itself by Lord Krishna's grace. I conclude with this and continue the next session. Radhe Krishna. Radhe Krishna. Coming to the 15th verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, first chapter, we covered the various points which are very important for a jiva to understand the whole concept of the Bhagavad Gita. Swamiji is always highlighting the important points which every individual has to follow, as how he taught to Arjuna. It's for teaching for all of us. Really, if we follow with that attitude, we can see the tremendous transformation in our life, in our attitude, and to reach the ultimate goal. So Swamiji was highlighting the very important point, how to develop this sattvic attitude, how to have emotional maturity, because emotions are very important. As in the mind, thoughts will be coming, and we can to some extent with the intellect control the mind with the intellect, with the proper understanding. Whereas when emotions come, it's very, very difficult to face a situation. So he's talking about emotional maturity is very, very important. So these points will help us to overcome that, and also sense controls. Senses should not rule us. We should master the senses. All that which he is telling to Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna, which are very, very important. So few more points Swamiji is trying to cover. One of the important points is forbearance, Hidiksha. Forbearance is a capacity to tolerate and endure situations. It is defined in Sanskrit as Sahanam Sarva Dukkhanam Apratikara Purvakam Chinta Vila Parahitam Sa Titiksha Nigadhyate. Very, very important sloka. Why Swamiji is highlighting these points is, just reading the Bhagavad Gita, everyone knows what are the minus points Duryodhana had. Like that, what are the minus points we all jivas are having in this janma, and how to overcome that, this human birth itself. Only we can do that. So climbing the ladder we should start, so that the next birth will be still more climbing. Otherwise, as another day in one of the talks, if you are not following, we will be worse than animals the next janma. That's what the situation, because we have the capacity to discriminate and to have a disciplined lifestyle. If you fail in that, it's equal to animal. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. So especially for the younger generations, we have to teach them, like our own children, because they are the future citizens. Because this karma theory, each one will be living this world alone. So it is our bound duty to advise them, to teach them. At least after the age of 30, 35, everyone has duties. But then this duty is also equally important, which our ancestors, which our parents, grandparents were doing it. But Swamiji is highlighting this very much, because this generation, since 30, 35 years, we are giving less importance to values. Because of that, so many problems we are facing, more and more problems. If we stick to this now, if we understand that and follow the values and teach, every home becomes a society, every society becomes a nation. So it is our bound duty to tell, So many a times we keep quiet also, it's adharma, because it's our duty to tell everybody, the family. Keeping quiet also is adharma, because we are being a part of it. Again, it's a selfish approach. Again, emotions are taking over, because if we leave the world without teaching them, it will go on. The vicious circle will go on. And our duties, we are not doing it as per our conscience. So that's why it's said that from the birth till the last breath, everyone knows what our conscience is. At the end of the day, we have to do introspection. Swamiji always says that what all minuses I have done and how to improve on that. And it's like there's a sloka in this, Karacharana Kritam Va Kayacham Karmacham Va, we say every time Lord won't be pardoning us, because it's our own actions. Pardon can be done only once. So our conscience always guides us. That is Ishvara. Ultimately, conscience is Ishvara. That's what the highlighting factor. So, again and again, Lord Krishna is telling to Arjuna, and Swamiji is highlighting why, because for every jiva, with this understanding, if you do, we can see the tremendous change at home, in society, and everywhere. The whole universe, we can see the change, transformation. So the word meaning sahanam, enduring, sarva dukkhanam, of all uncomfortable situations, apratikara, purvakam, without a desire to remedy, chinta vilaparahitam, free from worry and complaining, that titiksha, forbearance, nigadhyate, is said. So what Swamiji is highlighting is enduring all uncomfortable situations without a desire to remedy them and without worrying or complaining about them is called forbearance. One constantly faces situations that create discomfort. One option is to change them. When one cannot change a situation, the attitude with which one lives with it determines one's state of mind. Tidiksha is an attitude of cheerful acceptance of uncomfortable situations that cannot be changed. What Swamiji is telling is, situations will come according to our karma. If we follow all this with a prayerful attitude, with our prayers, everything will come, but with a not with very powerful. We can easily handle it, because Lord is blessing us, is gracing us because of our own actions. So constant complaining about an uncomfortable situation, such as, simple example, he is telling weather, noise, traffic does not, these are all small things. So like this, from small to the biggest, if we try to accept everything with that attitude, we'll see a tremendous transformation. And worrying about a situation only incapacitates oneself. So what he is telling is, for every problem there is a solution. So with the solution, with the awareness, with calmness, if we face a situation, it's very easy. If one cannot endure small discomforts cheerfully, more difficult situations will appear insurmountable and will make one feel weak. So it's our own mind which sees that problem as big and small. Every problem we have to face with a calm mind, and we get an answer for it surely. Solution will be there. That is why Titiksha, it's told, by practicing Titiksha, one discovers the strength to cheerfully deal with discomforts in life. One develops Titiksha by appreciating that any difficult situation is temporary. One thing we have to understand, everything is temporary. We face it, and that passes like a cloud pass. This is pointed out by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita in the 2nd chapter, very important. Matra sparshastu kaunteya shitoshna sukha dukkhadaha agama apayino nityah tam stitikshasva bharata. A very beautiful sloka. When it comes to that chapter, I'll try to explain the whole thing, where Lord Krishna says, the sense organs' contact with the sensory world gives rise to cold and heat, pleasure and pain. So with the material world, we have to face everyone. But when we accept the situation, then they and try to accommodation, as told, accommodating every individual. So we won't feel the pain. So, O son of Kunti, they pass by, they come and go, pleasure and pain, everything. They are not constant. Endure them, O descendant of Bharata. Swamiji is highlighting that in telling Arjuna to endure the pains of opposites. Lord Krishna is not giving advice but teaching him how to be objective in every situation, in every action, every thought. Objectivity is very, very much required. Both pleasure and painful experience are transitory, are temporary. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Not recognizing this, one tends to behave as though good situations go and unpleasant ones lingers. Many a times we say lot of problems we have, and that is lingering. Everything is a mindset. So when we face the situation with acceptance, it's not at all difficult. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. Understanding the changeable nature of both helps one to be objective and to develop the capacity for titiksha. That is the most important point, so that we can understand the whole concept, to know the ultimate truth. So Swamiji is highlighting a sensitive and mature person sees himself or herself as part of a wider scheme of creation in which everything is interdependent. Although there is an order and harmony in the universe, by virtue of free will, one can choose actions that may have an adverse effect on the environment and consequently on oneself. So, with the discrimination, one acts with a very matured way. If one indiscriminately destroys the form of life, if it tries to think in a different way, then the balance is disturbed. That's what is highlighting. So we have to maintain that balance. Sensitivity to the environment has been evident for centuries in the Vedic way of life. So it's very important that we have to go according to what is said in the Shastras. Many times what we like and dislike, we do accordingly, but what is told in the Shastras, with that understanding we have to follow. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. So with discrimination and determination, one can easily try to understand the ultimate truth. I'll continue in the next session, the further points. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Radhe Krishna.
Coming to the 16th verse of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putro Yudhishthirah Nakulah Sahadevascha Sughoshamani Pushpakau. The word meaning: Kunti Putraha, son of Kunti, Raja, king, Yudhishthira, Ananta Vijayam, the name of Yudhishthira's conch, Nakula, Sahadeva, Cha, and Sughosha Mani Pushpakau. Sughosha and Muni Pushpakau, the names of Nakula's son and Sahadeva's conches. Meaning of the verse: King Yudhishthira, the son of Kunti, blew Ananta Vijaya, and Nakula and Sahadeva blew Sughosha and Manipushpaka. See, they blew the conches. That's what Swamiji is referring. Although he was no longer the king, Sanjaya called Dharmaputra King Yudhishthira here. Duryodhana ruled the kingdom, but Yudhishthira was the real king. Because Sanjaya never agreed to this war and knew Duryodhana was making a mistake, he never missed an opportunity to point this out to Dhritarashtra. Ananta Vijaya, meaning that which produces countless victories, was the name of Dharmaputra's conch. Nakula's conch was called Sughosha, meaning that which produces a pleasant sound. Manipushpaka, that which is decorated with precious gems, was the name given to Sahadeva's conch. Coming to the 17th verse of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Kasyascha parameshvasaha शिखण्डी च महारथः दृष्टब्दिम्नो विराडश्च सात्यकिञ्चापराजितः काश्यश्च परमेश्वासः शिखण्डी च महारथः दृष्टद्युम्नो विराडश्च Satyakischaparajitah. Kashyascha Parameshvasaha, and the expert bowman. The meaning of the words: the king of Kashi, Maharataha, man of great valor, Shikhandi, Cha, and Drishtadhyumna, Virata, Cha, and Aparajitah, unsurpassed, Satyaki, Cha, and the expert bowman, the king of Kashi, the man of great valor, Shikhandi, Drishtadhyumna, and Virata, and the unsurpassed Satyaki. The king of Kashi was described here as one having a huge bow. Shikhandi was also mentioned as being another great warrior in Arjuna's camp. Drishtadhyumna, the first commander-in-chief of the Pandavas' army, King Virata, and Satyaki, another king, were also mentioned by name. In the next verse, Sanjaya concluded his account of those who had sounded their conches in the Pandavas' camp. Coming to the 18th verse, Drupado Draupadeyascha Sarvasha Prithivipate Saubhadrascha Mahabahuhu Shankhan Dadmuh Pratak. Prithivipate, O king, Drupada, Draupadeyas cha, the sons of Draupadi, cha, and Mahabahuhu, mighty armed, Subhadra's son, cha, and Sarveshaha, on all sides, Pratak, separately, Shankham, conches, Dadmuhu, blue. O king Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their own conches. Addressing Dhritarashtra as Prithvipate, O king, Sanjaya then pointed out Drupada, the father of Draupadi, the sons of Draupadi, and Subhadra, one of mighty arms, a description of Subhadra's valor, not the size of his biceps. Together then, these mighty warriors blew their conches. This sound was described in the next verse. Saghosho dhatrashranam hridayani vyadharayat nabhascha prithivim chaiva tumulo vyanunadayan. The meaning of the 19th verse: Saha, that, Tumulaha, tremendous, Ghoshaha, sound, Nabhaha, sky, Cha, and, Prithivim, earth, Cha, and, Eva, indeed, Vyanunadayan, reverberated. Dhatrashranam, of the sons of Dhritarashtra, Hridayani, the hearts, Vyadarayat, pierced. And that tremendous sound reverberated throughout the earth and sky and pierced the very hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. The sound made by the Pandavas in response to that made by Duryodhana's army was so tremendous that it pierced the very hearts of the sons of Dhritarashtra. The simultaneous sound reverberated and echoed wave after wave, bouncing from the earth to the sky and back again. The magnificence of the Pandava war cry pervaded the entire atmosphere, creating panic in those of the opposing side. Once again, Sanjaya drew home his point. Coming to the 20th verse, Ata vyavasthitan drishtva Dhatrashtra'n kapidvajah pravritte shastra sampate danurudhyamya pandavah. Atha then, Vyavasthitan, standing assembled, Dhatrashtra'n, the sons of Dhritarashtra, Drishtva, seeing, Kabidvajah, Arjuna, one who has the monkey, Hanuman as his banner, Pandavaha, Arjuna, Sastra Sampate, the shooting, Pravritte, about to begin, Dhanuhu, bow, Udhyamya, having lifted. Then seeing the sons of Dhritarashtra standing assembled and the shooting about to begin, Arjuna, whose banner was Hanuman, lifting his bow. In this verse, Arjuna was called Kapidvaja, one who has a monkey as his banner. Every chariot had a flag and each important person had a flag of his own. Arjuna's flag was Hanuman, devotee of Rama. This had come about by Arjuna asking him to fight on his side. Replying that he was too old to fight, Hanuman offered to sit as a dvaja, a flag of symbol, on top of Arjuna's chariot. Thus, Arjuna's name was Kapidvaja. It is said that Hanuman slept throughout most of the war. Only when Krishna talked to Arjuna did Hanuman choose to listen. He found the war itself very boring, something like baseball when no one is hitting. However, when Bhishmacharya came to fight, he opened his eyes until it was over. Then he would close them again until there was some other interesting happening. This would last for a few minutes and again he would go back to sleep. At the end of the war, when Bhishmacharya asked him how he enjoyed the battle, Hanuman replied that it has been nothing compared to those he had seen earlier, the fight between Rama and the 10-headed Ravana, for example. After such episodes, watching arrows flying back and forth, war like watching the Olympic Games, that's what Hanuman was referring. For Hanuman, sitting on top of Arjuna's chariot in the form of a small monkey, it was nothing. In his chariot, then, with Hanuman as his banner and Lord Krishna as his driver, seeing Dhritarashtra's sons in front of him, Arjuna picked up his bow. At the same time, he spoke to Lord Krishna. I'll conclude with this and continue the next verse 21, the next session.
Hari Om,
Radhe Krishna. We were in the 20th verse of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Swamiji is again highlighting few more points, what a Jivatma should practice and what is the difference, what qualities Arjuna had and what qualities Duryodhana had. So we have to improve on those qualities. Every Jiva have to improve. Few points he covered and few more points he is highlighting now, like friendship, desire, anger, how to overcome anger, how to be a friendly person in life, in relationship. All these are very important, every step which Lord Krishna told Arjuna, and already Arjuna had those qualities, but we can see in the Bhagavad Gita the difference of the qualities which a person should have. That is the highlighting factor. So first point is friendship. Swamiji is telling, in interacting with the world, one plays different roles and develops close relationships within and outside one's family. So relationship in family, society, let it be nation, relationship is very, very important. How we interact, how we communicate, and we should be a role model to society, to the family. That is very important. That's why Swamiji is highlighting every point. One important relationship is that of a friend. He is just highlighting one point, how a friend should be. Mitra. The Sanskrit word for friendship is mitratva, which is derived from the verbal root mid, meaning to feel affection for. Friendship is a relationship with another individual for whom one has affection. Swamiji is very nicely points out every aspect of our culture, which is very, very important. And we have to assimilate that and understand totally. That's why I am emphasizing, because if we should transform ourselves, we should see the transformation when we study Bhagavad Gita. That's what Swamiji says. Every individual should see the change in their life. That is the highlighting factor. That just it is he is referring to Arjuna, means it is referred, as I earlier told, every point. If we have to go deep and do analysis, the presence of certain qualities makes friendship a special relationship. A true friend is consistent and honest. A friend is not afraid to give an honest opinion and does not say things for the sake of getting approval. A friend willingly shares his thoughts and feelings without being critical about it. A friend provides companionship and ongoing support. There is no room for pride, jealousy, or rivalry in friendship. That's what Swamiji is highlighting, which is very important in the society. The openness in friendship allows one to grow and be matured enough. Maturity also is very important. When person says something in the family without hurting, with love and affection, if we say, we ourselves can see the change, transformation. What Swamiji is highlighting is, true friendship stands by each other during good as well as difficult times. A friend makes a point to maintain the relationship when there is stress or hardship. So that is very important in both the times, because equanimity, when you are in the spiritual path, we should support, let it be family, let it be society, which is very important. Not run away from that. That becomes a selfish approach. So whatever possible, to the extent, we should give moral support. That is very important. In the Ramayana, Sugriva and Rama honor their pact of friendship through the entire epic. Rama helps Sugriva kill his brother Vali and regain the kingdom. Sugriva provides his army to assist Rama in searching for Sita and does not rest until she is found and returned to Rama. Why he is highlighting is, every epic, our scriptures explain how the relationship with brothers, with family, each and everything is explained in our scriptures. Swamiji highlights one popular sloka in Sanskrit. Sampat kale cha mitrani santi koti sahasrashah apat kale tu yan mitram tan mitram parikirtitam. Sampat kale, in good times, cha and mitrani santi, there are friends, koti sahasrashah, by thousands of crores, apat kale, during bad times, tu, whereas, yet, the one, mitram, a friend, is, tat, that, mitram, a friend, parikirtitam, is considered.
During good times, countless people become friends, whereas the one who is friend during bad time is truly a friend. So, every problem of others we should see as our own problems. That attitude, to the best of the ability, Swamiji always tells, we can't stretch ourselves, but at least we can pray. We can't morally sometimes support in society, but always prayers helps us, family, the society. So that prayerful attitude, that thought, that sattvic thought, that's why he's highlighting the three gunas, how to improve the three gunas. Every step we have to be improving and coming out of tamas and rajas. Rajas we require, but certain qualities like desires, anger, how to control rajas. Now this point is for sattvam, how to improve our sattvic quality. So one can also be a friend within the context of another relationship, such as during marriage also it is said. Friendship between spouses is a sign of a healthy relationship as it fosters companionship and trust. Our Hindu marriage, Swamiji highlights, includes an important ritual called Saptapadi, in which the couple takes 7 steps together while making a vow to each other with each step. The 7th step is a pledge to remain as friends while they walk together through their journey of life. So, in a family, that is what is highlighting is husband and wife is like two sides of a coin, like two wheels of a cycle. Both wheels are required. Everyone have to do their duty with calmness, as he told, and awareness, not getting agitated at all. Every morning to night, without agitation, if you do, that itself is a great thing. What Swamiji highlights is every person should take one point and improve on that. Take a oath that I will not get agitated. When agitation comes, immediately we should change our attitude to calmness. See, these qualities, why I am highlighting is Bhagavad Gita everybody can read, but the transformation, if you just read few slokas, that is enough. Transformation is very important. The whole life I have read Gita for 40 years, but where I am standing, I have to analyze. Every individual has to analyze. Yes, really it has helped me to grow, to know, to be matured. Only I can tell, only every individual can. That's why I am again and again highlighting that, because that is very important. Swamiji is also highlighting that ultimately at the end of 40 years or 30 years, I should know where I was and where I am now. That is more important. That is the highlighting factor. The second point is he is giving importance to desire. See, desire, nothing wrong in having desire, as I already told, but we have to understand properly. Enjoy and then giving up, and then with understanding give up. Not because the other person has given up, you also should give up. Where I am standing, each level varies from individual to individual. That's why step by step we have to grow. Because somebody has given up, we don't know at what level he is. So seeing that half fulfilled desire and then giving up, it might have a problem. That's why we read scriptures, understand that, and then start giving up as the age also grows. We can't be like childish. So that's why we read the scriptures. After 40 years, we try to change our attitude and grow. So that's why desire has to be understood properly. The Sanskrit word kama means desire. Desires can be expressed in two ways: a desire to acquire or possess, raga, and a desire to give up or avoid, dvesha. All of life's pursuit are meant only to fulfill one's various ragas and dveshas, likes and dislikes. That's why Swami is very important. Likes and dislikes. Ragas and dveshas can be binding or non-binding in nature. If one's happiness is dependent upon fulfilling desires, one will naturally remain unhappy as long as the desires remain unfulfilled. Such desires are known as binding desires. On the other hand, one whose happiness is not dependent upon fulfilling desires is said to entertain non-binding desires. It is only the binding desires that bring disappointment and sadness to the individual and need to be addressed. Very important point. There is a common misunderstanding that all desires are a cause of bondage. While it is true that one's desires are infinite in number and therefore can never be fulfilled, to conclude that all desires are binding in nature is incorrect. One need not eliminate all desires to be free. So he's clearly making us understand. So we should not depend on some desire or some object for happiness. You're that ultimate Atma, true happiness. Ananda Swarupa is each individual. So, that being the case, every other object is limited only. It will give a limited time desire only. It's not infinite or unlimited. That's what is highlighting. So, unlimited happiness is your own self, without depending for happiness on objects or situations or circumstances. That's what the highlighting factor. Whether you have it or not, you're always cheerful, contented. That is the highlighting factor Swamiji wants to explain. So we should clearly understand the whole concept. Without desire, one would not be able to act at all, since desire alone prompts action. So with proper understanding, we should have desire. What is our limitation? How much we can stretch? One would not even be able to take one step if one did not have a desire or expectation to move forward. When Lord Krishna taught Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, where he highlights in Gita that he did so with the desire that Arjuna would understand. That's why Lord Krishna makes Arjuna understand the whole concept. Lord Krishna is telling every jiva, he's making us understand the whole concept. Without a desire, even the Lord would not act. Lord Krishna's desire, however, were considered to be non-binding in nature. Whether fulfilled or unfulfilled, such desires had no power over him. So, what he's highlighting is, we don't depend on the desires for fulfillment, for happiness. Thus, when the scriptures refer to desire as the cause of bondage, it is only binding ragas and dveshas that are meant. So, the understanding is we have to control our ragas and dveshas with that understanding. When we start reading the scriptures, automatically we'll try to understand the whole concept. Later in the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, Lord Krishna explains the further things, how desires, when we come to that, we'll go deep into it. I'll conclude with this. Further, I'll continue in the next session. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Radhe Krishna. Before entering the 21st verse of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, few more highlighting points which Swamiji has referred, which every individual should try to understand, which Duryodhana very much lacked, and which Arjuna practiced very much, and Lord Krishna was his side. So two very important factors in our life are, like other points, anger and jealousy. Swamiji says the Sanskrit word krodha means anger. In the Bhagavad Gita also, in the 2nd chapter, 62nd verse, where Lord Krishna explains the origin of anger to Arjuna in the following manner. It is a very famous sloka. Sangata sanjayate kamaha kamat krodho abhijayate. Very famous sloka. The 2nd chapter comes. Why he is highlighting is every individual faces anger. So how to overcome that anger in any situation, let it be in the family or society. How he's explaining from association, so how it is born. He's explaining the anger. Why I'm going deep? Because these are the aspects which every individual will help us to grow. Because though Lord Krishna has told Arjuna, he was already highlighted person. So we all also, Swamiji wants it to reach that ultimate. So each point he has emphasized in a very deep manner, so that when the situation comes in our life, anger, jealousy, etc., how to face it and how to immediately overcome it, so that
we will understand the whole concept very clearly. So this sloka says, from association is born desire, from desire is born anger. So in the latest chapter, last week I had told about desire. So he's highlighting further that when one experiences an object, it does not necessarily leave an impression in one's mind. Only if one thinks about the object again does it become an impression. If one continues to dwell upon or association with the object, a desire will be born to re-experience it or even to possess it. Thus, from repeated association, a desire develops. In order to fulfill a desire, a person acts. The more intense a desire, the greater the need to fulfill it. Whatever comes in the way of fulfilling the desire evokes anger. Desire and anger therefore go together. As Lord Krishna says in the further chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, also again, in the 3rd chapter, 37th sloka, it is Kama esha krodha esha rajo guna samudbhavah mahashano mahapapma vidyathe miha vairinam. Vidyena miha vairinam. Kamaha, desire. Esha, this. Krodha, anger. Esha, this. Rajo guna samudbhavaha, born of the gunas, rajas, tamas and all. Mahashanaha, mahapapma, a great sinner. Vidhi, to know. Imam, this. Here in the world. Vairinam, enemy. So he is analyzing how step by step it develops. So when in the initial stage itself, if you try to control it and understand, just not merely controlling, with proper understanding, and then it becomes easier. That's why he's highlighting this. Known this desire, this anger born of the gunas, because of mainly of rajas, a great sinner, an enemy here in this world. So mainly jealousy comes and anger comes because of desire, comparison. So he's telling, with the understanding we will not have such problems. That's why this knowledge is very important. What is our limitation we see, and with that understanding, have a broader vision. So that is the vision becomes broader, the anger and jealousy goes away. When we see Ishvara in everyone, there's no difference at all. The vision becomes very wide. So what if he is prosperous, if he is well off? We should have that attitude of magnanimity to understand that he is doing it with his karma, he is prospered. Fine. And with that we encourage and have that attitude. That's why Swamiji is highlighting, especially for the younger generation, because of the competitive world and because of the so much situations varies from morning till night. So every person should analyze that, what is my capacity, and everyone has a potential in every field. Nobody in this world is less potential. So whatever potential we have, A individual has, he prospers well. Never compare with B, C, D, because God has made in a different levels. Because the level varies, the prosperity varies. So we do our best, the best of our ability, Swamiji says. Do our actions and see prosperity in everybody. See that vision. That's why Swamiji is again and again highlighting. Why we are not going deeper into the Bhagavad Gita, mere just reading the slokas. That is between Arjuna and Duryodhana, we all know very well. How when we face, that's why Swamiji again he repeats that, this every aspect we have to go deep and understand. Then only the Bhagavad Gita becomes a part of us and transforms us totally. So he is telling, gunas are very important. If we have a level rajas more, let us control and coming to sattva, because tamas also is very not good. Tamas we can overcome always, but rajas is very difficult to bring to level of sattva. So that's why we have satsangam and all these activities, religious activities, so that our mind becomes calm and come to the guna level, come to that level, and reading books, chanting, so the mind becomes calm and the clarity grows. That's why we say that chanting helps for the clarity to grow. And we have to pray to Lord for that clarity also. For everything, prayer can do wonders. So that's why again I'm highlighting is these points helps us a lot. So Swamiji is telling desire is called a glutton because like a bonfire that swallows everything put into it. Desire can never be satiated. It's like a fire. It goes on accumulating. We can never quench that. So how to, with the understanding how to control not mere controlling, with the total understanding, we have to understand what is the desire. That's why he's highlighting when desires are not fulfilled, they give rise to anger. Lord Krishna describes the consequences of anger. Krodhat bhavati sammohaha. From anger is born lack of discrimination. Once the mind is overwhelmed by anger, one acts without thinking about the consequences. Desire and anger are called Mahapapa, the great sinners. They cause one to do actions one later regrets, sometimes for lifetime. Both are born of Rajoguna, a quality which implies forcefulness. These emotions are difficult to control once they fully manifest, and hence they have to be nipped in the bud itself. That's why from the very childhood, our parents have taught us with the values, so that when the time comes, we should know what are the values, how important it is, how to respect the elders, how to respect the society, how to respect each individual without getting angry. Let it be in the office, let it be in any situation for that matter. How to control that ahamkara and mamakara. Every point Swamiji is highlighting. Desire and anger are to be understood as enemies, since they do harm to oneself and to others. Because each experience grows. Everyone have to analyze their experience. And as I told you earlier, night we have to contemplate. We have to do a homework, analyzing that day and how the next day should be improved upon it. These negative emotions are to be dealt with by recognizing and understanding them clearly. So that clarity is very much required. One acts in order to fulfill desires. The results of one's action, however, need not be as one wants. So more often than not, one's expectations are different from what one gets. What he's telling is, we might desire, but all desires need not get fulfilled because it is according to the karma, as I told earlier. What we deserve we'll get. What we desire we might not get. What we deserve we'll get means already our prarabdha is fructified, as I told. So what we deserve we get also, that depends on our actions present. So everything depends on our actions present from this birth. Last also already it has fructified, so we are facing it. So only we can improve with the free will now. That's why Swamiji is again highlighting expectations. So let us have the prasada buddhi, as I told already. With that prasada buddhi, accept everything cheerfully as prasadam, whenever, without complaint. Then the whole concept is understood properly. When expectations are not met, the immediate reaction is generally disappointment and frustration. This tendency begins at an earlier stage. So that's why Swamiji is telling, from the very childhood it starts. So such behavior can become a subconscious way of achieving desires and will not be given up even when reached adulthood. So the subconscious, from the childhood we might have, but then it has to be educated properly. That's what Swamiji is telling. Anger seems to occur naturally without one's choice. To deal with anger, one needs to understand that anger is a reaction, not a deliberate action. So that is very important. It is a reaction. So before that reaction comes, we have to tune our mind properly, how to act calmly. It is a response to expectation not met. It is a response for that expectation which is not met. That's why the anger happens. By one's constant analysis, we can overcome that. That's what Swamiji is highlighting. To conquer anger, one needs to understand that things do not necessarily go the way one wants. And that's the laws of cause and effect. Do not operate selectively in favor of some people and against others. One then needs to develop an alertness by which one can recognize anger as it arises. In the beginning, one recognizes anger only after it has come. done its damage and gone. Eventually, with alertness, the time between the rise of anger and its recognition is shortened. One then learns to recognize anger as it rises, and moreover to recognize situations that have the potential to create anger in oneself. So Swami ji is highlighting that many times it happens. So that's why a training is given before, let it be office or at home, before that situation comes, we have to analyze and we can handle that matter with calmness. That's what Swami is giving all of us solutions to overcome that and to grow spiritually. That is the highlighting matter. To gain mastery over anger, its potential has to be nullified. So that with that understanding, only we can nullify it. So gaining mastery over anger or other emotional reactions is a value that involves practice. So Swamiji is giving us the methods how to practice. Swamiji highlights the one who gains mastery over anger is considered to be an exalted person, and he tells that that person is a blessed and great person who can dissipate anger through analysis as it rises in the mind, just as one extinguishes glowing fire by water. Dealing with and overcoming anger is a sign of emotional maturity, resulting in a mind that is relatively tranquil and free from agitations. So he's telling that everything requires practice. So now, as I have told you, with anger, these points, when it comes, that situation we analyze and be calm, and in the course of time we come over every situation and handle calmly. That is the highlighting point the Swamiji is referring. Further, I'll go to the further chapters in the next session. Hari Om. Radhe Krishna. Radhe Krishna.